I'm going to ask you a bit of a tricky question, a bit of an uncomfortable question perhaps for this audience. When you say that you take an 18-hour flight, you come here and realize the land actually doesn't belong to the gentleman or to his cousin or to his cousin's cousin either. Are Indian businessmen, this is a constant complaint, are some sections of Indian industry willing to bend rules when it suits them?
Well, listen, I think there's an entrepreneurial spirit here that is, again, it needs no further explanation, though the media will say that I said something totally different. But so there's an entrepreneurial spirit here, that is different than elsewhere in the world. But I have seen, the second part of perhaps the last question was, I have seen changes come. Once I got with the right people and understood, I have seen reforms. I'm not talking policy, I'm saying as an outside businessman coming in over the couple of years, I have seen changes. Some of the reforms probably hit everyone, but they also weeded out in the real estate sector, which was, if you were a developer, it was a four-letter word. Okay, there was no trust because you were promised X and you were delivered X minus, if anything at all. And that doesn't work in the long term. So I think there's been a burden imposed on all developers, the ones who have done a good job, the ones who are well-intentioned, the ones that I'm now truly friends with, they've done a good job and they'll rise to the top anyway. It will weed out the bad players, and that needed to happen.
We'll talk about weeding out the bad players and the reforms that have been undertaken and how that's really changing real estate. But you've got business interests both in India and China. And just for this audience here, actually, India is the biggest market for you outside of the United States.
Yeah, we don't have China. Actually, our focus, and my focus has really been in India because I've been able to break through there. I think there's an ease of communication here. Whether there's a language barrier, at least in the business level, where there is no difficulty. I think there's an understanding of sort of common law. A lot of things made it for me much more natural to be able to do business here. And I think, again, when I talk business, I'm in a relationship business. For me, I'd like to be able to work out a deal and never look at that contract again because we're on the same page. We have the same mindset. We want to build, in this case, luxury. When we're building luxury in India, I'd seen it, and I've seen it all over the emerging world where everything is luxury because I can get it double the premium. Well, just because you call it luxury doesn't make it so. And so I think what we've been able to do is actually truly harness luxury, bring it here, take a building and develop it here that you could sit in any cosmopolitan city in the world. And that frankly hasn't existed in the emerging world until very recently, and still very few people do it well despite what they bill it.
Will you say that a Trump Tower somewhere in Mumbai or Pune or anywhere else can actually be handpicked and taken to Manhattan? Is that what luxury will mean?
I think 100%. When I look at the building that were delivered yesterday in Pune, for example, I mean it's a building that you could sit in any cosmopolitan city in the world and it would be on par with the best of the best. I mean it's truly, but it's also an anomaly within that market, which has allowed us to do better with that product than others.